This is our next lecture on section 2.2. This is about adding and subtracting with unlike denominators. So our last example 13, we found out that the LCD for 22 and 33 is 66, and I just wanted to remind you of that. I kind of got cut off on my last part of my lecture, and what you see up here at the top is the other way of representing what I've done with tree diagrams. So 22 is 2 times 11, and 33 is 3 times 11. You see the unique factors up here, and the deal with this table is I can only circle one box, and that can kind of help us not make the mistake with this exponent right here, the ability to only circle the one box there. So I just wanted to mention that. So let's go ahead and do the examples where we're going to be adding and subtracting unlike denominators. So in order to add and subtract unlike denominators, I'm going to call your attention to the notes over on the left here. Find the least common multiple, least common denominator, and then you build the equivalent fractions. We did that in an earlier lecture. And then we add or subtract the new fractions, and then we simplify if it's necessary. So we've already found the least common denominator in our first example, 5/22 and 5/33. So we know that the least common denominator in this particular instance was 66, and that's why I wanted to start with that just a minute ago. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to build the higher terms. So you remember in the building the higher terms section, what we did was we started by writing a fraction with our new denominator. In this case, it's our least common denominator. Then we ask ourselves, 22 times what's going to give me 66? Well, 22 times 3 is going to give me 66. So I'm going to write multiplied by 3. And what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So I'm multiplying the denominator and the numerator by 3. So 3 times 5, which gives me my new numerator, 15. Then over here, I have 33, and I need to make it 66. 33 times what gives me 66? So that's a 2. So we multiply by a 2. Top and bottom. So 5 times 2, which gives me 10. And finally, I'm to the exact same problem that I ended up with in the last section, where I now have like denominators. So I simply add or subtract the numerators. So my numerators, 15 and 10, are going to be subtracted. So 15 subtract 10 over my common denominator, 66. And finally, 15 minus 10 is 5, and that's 566. And then I'm to the point where I need to see if it will reduce. 5 is a prime number. It is not a factor of 66, and therefore we know that there's no reduction. So that's our whole process. Our next example is still unlike denominators, but this one's a really easy example, and that's because the denominators here are both prime numbers. And when both numbers are prime, it's very easy to know the LCD. It's just a product of their primes, since how prime factorization is how we get those LCDs. So our LCD in this case is just 3 times 5, which is 15. And then from there, we are going to go and we're going to build our higher terms. So where we have our higher terms ready to go, LCD written in the denominator, build the higher terms. 3 times what equals 15? Well, you know you have the 3, so there's the 5. You can use prime factorization to do those multiplication problems to find that missing C. So our numerator is 5. Over here it's times 3, and so times 3 in the numerator as well. So we have 6, and then finally 5 plus 6, which is 11. And that's over my common denominator of 15. 11 is also prime, and it doesn't have any, or is not a factor of 15, and so therefore we know this doesn't reduce, and we're all done. I'm going to go ahead and do another mini lecture to finish these two down here because I'm almost out of time anyway.